What's up, people? What's up, people? You're watching Grooves and Motivation Live. Today, we're going to be talking about something. We're going to be talking about your sound or your technique. So stay tuned. Bass players, it's that time again, and you know I had to do this one. This is for any bass player who's looking to improve your feel on some of this more soulful stuff, and you're looking to play something that feels a little different from the gospel stuff that we've been doing. This is just for you. Now, if you've checked out any of my other bass jam packs, you know exactly how this goes. There are 6 tracks included in this pack. There's a part A and a part B to each track. And also with the track, I'm going to include the sheet music and tab for those of you who need this music. Maybe this is not so common to you as it is for some people, so that's no problem. I'm including the sheet music and the tab just for you. Also, you're going to get 2 MP3s. One will include my bass take, what I actually played over it, and then you'll get one without my bass take so you can do your thing and rock out and have fun to it. And not only that, like I've done on every other jam pack, if you are a person who needs the additional help in terms of breaking down these tracks, because it might be a little complicated for you depending on where you are in your level as a musician, as a new bass player, I've also included the instructional for this where I go through and break down all 6 tracks. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is that I'm playing. I'm going to show you the progression. I'm going to show you how to play all these little crazy lines that we're doing throughout the song. So you have no excuse but to go in there and do what you got to do when it comes to practicing. So if you're ready to learn and play some heavy bass grooves, check out the All Soul Bass Jam. I'll see you on the inside. Peace. Good morning, everybody. I see some folks already done jumped in the comment section. T, good morning to you, sir. Floppy, good morning. Everybody else that's joining and you are driving and you can't get in the chat section, I get it. It's all good. You could just throw that thumb up and we'll be good to go. I wanted to jump on here. I know it's Wednesday. I'm fully aware of that. And most of you guys are looking for me to be here Tuesday mornings. And I was trying to be here yesterday, but I had too much stuff that I was trying to finish up, so I couldn't do yesterday morning. So anyway, nonetheless, I am here, and welcome to everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Hopefully you can. If you can, give me a thumbs up real quick. Let me know that you can hear me loud and clear. From my side, it looks like you can hear me, but I don't know. I always have to ask if you guys can actually hear me. But yeah, jumping right in. Andrew, good morning to you. Good morning to you. And anybody else who jumps in the chat, you already know what to do. Be sure to let me know where you're watching from. Sweet, thanks, Floppy. I appreciate that. Be sure to let me know where you're watching from. I love to see where in the world people are watching these videos from. That's always super cool to me to just find that out and just know where people are watching and all that kind of stuff. And real quick before I forget this, because most of the stuff I always forget and somebody have to remind me, be sure to like this video and turn on my notifications if you haven't already done that. That way when things like today happen where I go live on a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday, you know about it, you get the notification and you can jump in and join the live, ask your questions or whatever that may be for you. So I want to make sure that you guys are a part of this thing. So be sure to turn those notifications on. Real quick question before I jump into this. How many of you guys have been checking out the lick videos, like the 1-minute series, just by a show of thumbs? How many of y'all have been checking out the 1-minute series that I've been putting up, where we put up the 1-minute video one day and then the next day you have the breakdown of the video? I just want to know how many of my Grooves and Motivation fam is actually checking out the video. Not only checking out the videos, are you learning the licks? Are you learning the riffs, this kind of stuff, so you can kind of add and build to your vocabulary? I'm interested to find out who's doing it. Interested to find out who's doing it. So Floppy says, I'm eating lunch in the sunny Hythe, south coast of UK. All right. I don't know if I said that right, but okay. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So I see some of you guys have been checking out the Licks videos. And again, you want to turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of the videos that I've been putting out. I think it's something that's going to definitely help not only give you something to add to your vocabulary, but the ultimate goal of it is to help you build a vocabulary and add it into your groove. So that's why you have these things being played in context of a groove. You know, not that they're isolated to not that they're isolated to that particular groove, but you do have some context where you can hear that particular riff or that lick implemented. All right, good stuff, good stuff. So yeah, moving right on through this thing. I'm still playing around. I don't know if you guys saw one of my, I put out a lot of videos lately, but one of the videos I put up in terms of the bass lesson about something. I don't even remember what it was about. It's like building your vocabulary part 2. That's what it was. So if you haven't saw that one, I don't want to spoil it for you. Be sure to go and watch that video when you have time. All right, but I was talking about using this Eros looper, and don't worry, this is not a promotional grooves and motivation, but I'm still working my way through this thing, and I was playing around with this groove this morning. I hope I can loop it because I literally have forgot what I played not too long ago. So I'm hoping that it all comes back to me once I start this looper. If not, y'all gonna see some fumbling happening this morning. Fumbly McFumbleton, but it's all good. I love to get on here and fumble my way through stuff because I've come up with some cool ideas just fumbling through stuff on here. So it's all good. It still get used for the right reason. All right, so let's see what we got. I can't hear myself. Let me unplug here and hook up somewhere else. Yeah, I'm not hearing myself. Let's do this here. There we go. More than one way to skin a chicken, right? Bad analogy. Sorry, guys. All right. All right. Let's see what we got here. I'm gonna attempt to play around with this. All right, so let's try this again here. That wasn't the one I played, but we're gonna go with it. as a biscuit this morning. I have no effects on it. Good morning to you. In all honesty, I ain't really feeling the groove. I'm gonna try to make it work though. Brings me to a really good point. I wasn't trying to get into my little talk this fast, but so the topic of today's live is your sound or your technique. Which one is more important to you? And before we get too far into this, just go ahead and type into the comment section your opinion. Now, I'll give my disclaimer before I get into any of this. Like, my stuff that I say today is my opinion based on what has worked for me. For those of you who don't know me, you might have stumbled across this channel and you like, okay, this is the Lick Dude. I am Jermaine Morgan, by the way, hence Jermaine Morgan TV. I am I'm a professional musician. As you can see, I play multiple instruments, producer, songwriter. Yeah, I've been playing a long time. We'll say that. I'm almost 40 years old this year. And I've been playing since I started playing guitar at age 12. I think I picked up bass around 15 or 16. Didn't really get serious about it until later in life, maybe 19, 20, somewhere in there. But yeah, so the Lick Dude, right? But that's how some people know me. They know me because they found this channel because I played a bass lick or something like that. So that's all people know me for. And oftentimes in YouTube, um, just kind of giving you some more background. I used, when I started my YouTube channel, I used YouTube as an outlet. So a lot of the stuff that people hear me play on here is oftentimes me just kind of, for the lack of better words, running up and down that neck, like the old cats say, run up and down that neck. And so that thing there can almost become, the only thing people know you for when that's all they've seen. Whereas when I work and the things I get hired for, that's not what I'm doing. I'm playing the bass, and when needed or when there's a moment, I'll throw a lick or something in there. But I pretty much play bass. But anywho, neither here nor there. But yeah, so I've had the opportunity to work with a good bit of artists, and I'm not gonna start name dropping on here. If you want to know some of the stuff that I've done, some of the people that I've worked with, be sure to go to JermaineMorgan.net and look up the artist and all that stuff. I don't even know. Just look it up on something under there. You'll find it on the website. So that saves me from having to tell you I did this, that, and the other. If you care, you can find it there. But yeah, I've been doing this for a while, and in doing this, I've learned a lot. I learned a lot through my journey, and I want to start off by saying this. And I grooved a little bit, so y'all got to give me some credit. Like, hey man, he's talking already. He didn't even play. I grooved a little bit, so you got to give me some credit, right? Grooves and motivation. But one of the things I found interesting in kind of assessing my life, you start getting older, you start looking back over things and looking at them a lot differently. So if you're young, just keep living. It'll come with time. So as I'm looking back over my life, I sound like I'm about to start a song off, right? As I look back over my life. But as I'm assessing things, I noticed the way that I used to kind of view the way I came up, the way I played. For those of you who are new to the channel, who don't know me personally, I wasn't necessarily trained, I guess the scholastic traditional way. I didn't learn music from a teacher or anything like that. I didn't take I wasn't formally trained, for lack of better words. I wasn't formally trained. However, I did go to college. I did learn theory and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't learn that starting off. So I had like a whole bunch of years of playing by ear. Most of the stuff that I learned it by ear and just picking it up and being in an environment where people were just doing it, not necessarily showing me or giving me lessons or anything like that. Family played music. My brother, multi-instrumentalist as well, so I learned a lot from him. The different stuff he was getting. So basically, a lot of ear training. And the way I looked at my education, or non-education rather, once I finally moved to a city like Atlanta, where everybody was like, you got to know what you're doing down here. Once I finally moved to a place like Atlanta, I used to kind of look down, in a sense, on the way that I learned. Not looking down on the people or not looking down on any of that. But I would always, and here's what I mean, I would always say stuff like, man, if I had learned this when I was coming up, if I could have, got lessons from that person, if I could have did this, and if I could have learned theory, if I could have learned my number system, but that wasn't the environment that I came up in. I came up in an environment where, you basically get in where you fit in. That was pretty much the environment of how I came up. They'll start a song off. You don't know the song, but you better play it. Play something, act like you know the song, pretend to know it. And you literally had to listen to the changes. Maybe some of you guys that grew up in early backwoods church, you know what I'm talking about. Like they'll start songs off, and songs you ain't never heard before, but they want you to play because they know you can play. All right, Brother Jermaine, come on, help us out. You and your brother, you and Ken, y'all come on, help us out. That kind of stuff. Or being me and my mom, y'all come on. Old folks will say, y'all help us out, right? So they would be like, y'all come on and help us out. So we're listening to these songs, and you're having to follow the melody of their voice to figure out where the music is going, right? So I'm basically, is a lot of ear training in the early years of my playing, and I felt like once I moved to Atlanta, because there were so many things I didn't know playing professionally, I'm like, man, I should have been learning this stuff. And so I looked down, in a sense, on the stuff that I already had because it, quote unquote, wasn't good enough, supposedly. But as I've grown, as I've matured, as I've played, as I've done this for a long time, I've learned that the way that I learned wasn't bad. Yeah, I could have had some other stuff that could have been thrown in there that could have helped me, but it wasn't necessarily bad. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a bad way. And even if you're finding yourself in a situation like, man, I wish I could have been around it. I wasn't around any musicians and all this kind of stuff. Because my folks, although they played, we weren't like considered top tier musicians or like around some of the cats that I would call now, kind of top tier musicians. Is like it was mostly hobby musicians that I was surrounded by. And I say that with all due respect, you know what I'm saying? Like cats that play for their local church. They weren't necessarily touring or doing any of that stuff. So they knew the basics and they could sound good, but it wasn't anything technical. That's what I mean in saying that, not necessarily top tier musicians. But the way that I learned, I noticed it prepared me in a way that other cats didn't necessarily pick up who might have been formally trained, where I can go and listen to something and like pick it up really, really quick, or listen to something and kind of make out where it's going. Or even in my own music production, the things that I had to do growing up, it helped me in the idea of, it helped me in the sense of production, kind of seeing where a song goes. Like right now, I've got several projects that I'm working on, and artists will send me their ideas, and based on what they gave me, I can kind of see the full picture of where they're trying to go and go ahead and paint that full picture for them. Well, sometimes if you've not had to be in that environment where you had to know what the other picture, what the full picture should look like, that's a skill that you have to work really, really hard to develop. And I see there's a lot of people who have a hard time creating something from nothing. You know what I'm saying? Just coming up with a melody and going with it. There's a lot of people who have a hard time doing it. And so over the time, I've became more aware and more appreciative of the way that I had to come up to the other point. So I was focusing, and I didn't know this early on, but I was focusing more on my sound than my technique. My technique sucked. Don't get me wrong. It sucked. Over time, I improved my technique, and it's probably some of y'all looking at me playing like, oh man, it still sucks. Like, but it doesn't matter. I have learned how to appreciate and enjoy my own sound. I have really, really learned how to appreciate and enjoy the sound that I'm hearing and the sound that I'm able to create. And when I pick up the instrument, I know what I want to go for, and I know how to do it, and it's not necessarily a struggle to get that out. Now, it might be sometimes a struggle to clean it up at times, you know what I'm saying? But to be able to fully express what I'm hearing in the moment, yeah, I can pick my instrument up and do that. And it's a joy to be able to do that. But the thing about the technique part of it, now here's what getting around people who had better technique, who had better technology, who had more access to stuff, getting around those people, you appreciate that, Floppy. And I see y'all's comments. I'm gonna go back and try to read as much as I can. But over time, what I noticed in myself, I got to the city where everybody was doing all this stuff, and these were the pros, so to speak. And I started second guessing my own sound. And I noticed I started kind of gravitating towards things that were popular, even in my music production. I started gravitating towards the sound, quote unquote, that was popular. Like I do produce a lot of gospel music and do some, jazz type stuff. I say jazz type stuff because I don't want, I'm not a straight ahead guy. I do jazz-ish type stuff. But a lot of the music that I was producing, I noticed in the earlier years of my production here in Atlanta, I started kind of drifting towards what everybody else was doing, as opposed to really honing in on my own sound. Don't get me wrong, it never really goes away. This is a good thing about it. Your own sound never really goes away. It's just it's not fully when you're not fully immersed in your own sound and really getting into that thing. It's like you can kind of drift away and start sounding like everybody else. And so once I started picking up on that, in my later years of doing this thing, I said, you know what? And I'm gonna say this because this might be a point for some of you guys that might help you in finding that sound. I was recording myself all the while. Like, as soon as I knew how to turn on a tape recorder, I started recording myself. So for years, I've had recordings of what I sounded like, what my stuff sounded like, my original recordings. I got stuff from way back 2004, 2005, even years before that, stuff that other people had recorded. So I know what I sounded like. And don't get me wrong, there were some influences from various people, but I had my own thumbprint way back when. And recently, as I was working on some stuff, like, man, what was it? A few years ago, I started going back and revisiting some of my old music, and I'm like, I had my own sound, or I have my own sound, and I didn't realize it because I was so busy trying. And this is the pitfall you can kind of run into as far as industry is concerned. When you're working in an industry, you have the tendency, especially as a musician, to kind of adapt to try to survive. You try to adapt to that particular industry. So if you're trying to get tracks placed on somebody, you start trying to write something that sounds like this artist, or trying to produce something that sounds like that artist, and you get trapped in that industry sound. And so it kind of robs you of your own individuality and your own creativity until somebody else fully in their own creativity creates something that's super dope that ain't nobody doing because it's unique to them. Now everybody gravitates towards that thing. And I think over time, seeing that happen over and over again, I started kind of gravitating back to my own thing. Like, oh, this was original to me. Like, we all have a sound. And I encourage you guys to start recording yourself. I encourage you to do that. If you haven't already started doing it, please do. Because if you're only listening to the recordings of other people, it's hard to know what you sound like. And that's the plus side of me recording myself all those years. I was able to hear, and like my wife will tell you now, I'll wear you out with my own music. Like, I'll listen back to it, and not in a sense of, oh, this is just, man, this is the fire. It's not that. It's oftentimes the bad side of it is I have been my own worst critic in the past. So I'm listening to stuff and I critique it, critique. I can fix this. I can fix this. Perfectionist nature. Sorry. So I do that. And in my later years, I've learned to listen to my music and enjoy it. Like, really, truly enjoy it. Like, man, that's good. Like, I like that. That's good. Right? So I'm learning. I say learning, even though this has been years in the making, I'm still learning how to enjoy my sound. I'm learning what that is for me and how to enjoy it because it's coming from me. Well, one of the things I want to make mention of, I made a couple of notes, nothing deep, but I made a couple of notes about the reason why I feel like most people struggling to try to get better. Because the question could be, I wanted to name this live several things. There were several ideas that came to mind. And one of the ideas that came to mind was, why am I not getting better? Why am I not getting better? And I feel like the reason why most people are struggling to improve, because the goal that they're after is somebody else, or a certain level that somebody else is on. It has nothing to do with maximizing who you are or maximizing what you have to say. It has everything to do with the comparison game, so to speak. You're listening to where somebody is at versus where you are, or, especially with all the social media, and you've constantly being bombarded with amazing musicians. You're hearing that stuff, and it's hard to enjoy your stuff when you're always comparing it to somebody else's. It's hard to do it. But I challenge you to start changing the view of how you hear your own playing, how you hear your own music. If you're a producer, if you're a singer, if you're a songwriter, whatever you do, I challenge you to stop paying so much attention to everybody else. One of the notes I made is communication or expression. That's how music should be. My opinion, right? It should be communication or expression. When a child is learning to speak, they're not concerned about trying to beat mama or daddy having a conversation, or trying to be better or as good as mama. I'm gonna be able to talk as, I know that's bad English. I'm gonna be able to talk as good as mama, or I'm gonna be able to talk as good as daddy. No, I could care less about being able to talk as good as somebody else. I just know there's a cookie and I want a cookie. cookie, right? It's communication, expression. I get tickled when I hear certain little kids, they speak and they get their R's and stuff the way height, they don't say hurt, they say height, it's height. Like I think my daughter, either my daughter or my son, when they were a baby, they used to say that it's height, it's height. They want to tell you, they want to express to you that there's some pain. There's something going on that I don't like. And the primary goal of me being able to communicate is to express to you what I feel. I have to express to you what's going on. But I think we take that out of music. We just rip all of that out of music because there's so many gurus, there's so many people, and there's so much comparison going on to everything around us that we feel like we have to be rocket scientists when it comes to music. I coach several bass players, more than several, but I coach a good bit of bass players. And good morning to everybody that's jumping in. I see you. But I coach, many bass players, and one of the themes that I've heard, not from everybody, but from a good bit of players, is once I learn this and once I figure that out, then I'll be able to do this. Yeah, that's the theme, and you have to take it from my perspective, coming from the perspective of somebody who's been doing it for a long time, who has played professionally, who's played on all these stages, and who basically is getting called for all. It's like, I understand that. I know what you mean, but it don't take all that. It don't. And I know that's going to burst some people's bubble. And, I welcome your disagreement, but you don't have to put it in the chat. You can silently disagree because this is my opinion. But it's my opinion based on what I know have worked. Most of the people that we admire in terms of their style and their skill, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of these people were unlearned in terms of formal training, in terms of trying to have the correct technique. I remember watching the James Brown movie, and they was in this recording session, and the cats that knew the theory and all this kind of stuff was trying to tell him about how, and some of you might remember this scene, they was trying to basically tell him like how this wasn't right. It wasn't, musically, it was not right. And James wasn't trying to hear none of that. Like, but does it feel good? You know what I'm saying? It's like, from his perspective, this is how he's hearing the music. And it's not based on if you think it's right or wrong, because your opinion is irrelevant. This is the way I hear it, and this is the way it's resonating with me, and this is the way I want to communicate it. So you telling me, if I'm a baby, that say that my arm is hurting because I skinned my arm. You ain't trying to hear none of that as a baby. I ain't trying to hear none of that. I'm crying, it's height. Fix it, right? It's height. So I need you to fix it. I'm not concerned about you trying to correct me and tell me if I'm saying the words, if I'm enunciating my syllables correctly, if I have the right posture when I'm talking. All I want to express to you is that it's height. And I need you to do something about it, because you're either mama, your daddy, or you're somebody that I'm looking to do something about it in that form of communication. Or it's just, you're somebody, let me say it this way, you're somebody that I really want to express what I'm feeling to. So all that other stuff, you can have it. I just want to express it. And I think if we start to take that standpoint as it relates to our music, this is an expression. This is an expression. This is communication. I think we will begin to start, enjoying a little bit more of what we do. We'll begin to enjoy a little bit more of what we do. And this is right. What I'm talking about right now is just an overview of a whole bunch of stuff that I'm going to be getting into in a challenge that I started called Unlock Your Sound Challenge. It's like a 3-day event that I'm going to be doing virtual, so you could be a part of it if you want to be a part of it. I'm going to put the link before I forget. This is the only reason I'm mentioning it now. I'm going to put this link here, so if you want to go and check it out, sign up for this event, you can learn more. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it here, but if you want to learn more about this whole concept of what I'm talking about, and then getting some practical tools, here's the link, and you can go and check that out. But anywho, so again, I think if people were to stop focusing so much, in my opinion, again, Stop focusing so much on the technique part if you just getting going. I'll wait. If you're just getting started, stop focusing so much on the technique part. You have a long way to go, but it doesn't have to take you as long to get there. And one of the things I'll switch gears really quick. One of the things I've noticed, and even in my own playing, that helped me. One of my little starting into one of my little slogans now. You see it on all my videos. Unlock your sound, and that's one of the things I do hope that I help you guys to do who take times for listening to me. Unlocking your own sound. One of the things I think that will help you do that in terms of unlocking your own ideas. I'm completely losing my train of thought. I was reading the comments down there, and I don't know. Yeah, practice will definitely help you do that, but not focusing so much on technique. Again, it's the whole communication piece of it, not focusing so much on the technical aspect of what you're doing. And I think so many people are trying to get everything right instead of just trying to communicate. You're trying to get everything right. You're trying to play all the right stuff, and you're looking at all these external things that do matter, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not getting you closer to your desired location, which is, speeding up the process and learning. Some of the people that I've heard, I put it like this. I've seen so many child prodigies coming up, and I'm raising one, so I know what I'm talking about. My daughter and all three of my kids, I'm gonna be honest, all three of my kids. My son is playing drums. Both my daughters are learning keyboard. My oldest daughter is necessarily, she's the prodigy for real. She, the perfect pitch. I've talked about her many times, but I'm watching the process. She's just figuring stuff out, and I had to learn at her. She's 10 now, but early on I had to kind of learn to get out of the way because I was trying to correct things that didn't need it correcting right away. Things that didn't need correcting, I was trying to correct. I was being the guy, I've been doing this for a long time, and my no was getting in the way of her learning. I'm going to say it again slow so somebody can hear it. My knowing, or my no, meaning knowing, was getting in the way of her learning because I noticed the more I tried to, quote unquote, help her, the less she wanted to practice. Same thing with my son. When I was trying to help him grow on the drums by showing him this and showing him that and trying to show him this is the right way to do it. And it's like these things I'm telling you guys, not only have I applied them in my own life, I've seen the danger that they can cause in someone who's just learning. And so we can inflict that, like self-inflicted danger. You know too much. Some of you, I'll say that to you. You know too much, and that's why you're not progressing as a musician. Even if you just pick this instrument up, or even if you're intermediate trying to get a lot better, you know too much. And the fact that you know so much, you're getting in the way of your learning. One of the things I noticed with my daughter, the oldest one, she's like making leaps and bounds in her playing. Like I'm hearing stuff that she's doing, and I'm sitting here like, what? I was not doing that at 10 years old. So I'm sitting here just in amazement listening to her playing odd time signature stuff. Nobody told her. And I noticed what she's doing to the point I was making earlier is ear training. So what I find myself doing now, she's always practicing. She always wants me to hear what she's doing. And because that's become the culture in our house, my other kids do it as well. They want me to hear what they're playing. And so what I've learned to do now, and I can't take all the credit for it, I give my wife some credit. My wife was like, hey, you might be going a little strong with them because like you see, we see a little hope of this person being a great musician. We want to pounce on it. Like, you need to do this. You need to learn this. You know what I'm saying? You want to Joe Jackson them because you want them to maximize all that potential that you can see. And I backed off. And now what I do when I go to my daughter is I listen. I listen to what she's playing, whatever she's trying to play for me. And when she's finished, sometimes I don't even tell her, hey, you can try this. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. But the approach I'll do, and the reason why I don't tell her as much anymore is because I noticed this. When I go in her room, sit down and play the keyboard and play what she was playing, and I start playing different ideas to it, And I go through the sound bank, try different sounds and all this kind of stuff. The next time I come to her room, she's playing what I played, her variation of it. But nonetheless, she remembers what I played and she's playing it. And I showed her and let her hear what I was doing. And some stuff, every now and again, I'll jump in and I'll like, hey, you can try this, you can do this. Yeah, she's naturally talented and all this kind of stuff. But watching her has gave me a lot more confidence in myself, because I don't think I was a natural. Yeah, I could do stuff, but I don't care how natural you are. It's a skill that you have to develop. No matter where you're starting from, no matter the start point, you might have an advantage over other people because, like, my daughter automatically knows, okay, this key sounds like they're right here. So that's the advantage that she has. She don't have to work as hard to find a key. But the skill to figure out how to play it, she still has to work on it. And she still gets frustrated. She still cries because she's not getting it. Like, Yana, stop being extra. I'm sorry. I'm a little insensitive at times because I'm a dude. But I have to tell her, I'm like, don't stress out over this. It's not that big of a deal. She doesn't know how much progress she's making. I'm using my daughter for an analogy, but put yourself in the place of her, because I want you to see you in this. She gets frustrated and she, gets upset. Sometimes she stops. Sometimes you could hear her up there just, there's a lot of frustration because she doesn't know how good she is. She doesn't know how much progress she's made. Here's the other thing. She's playing on a lot of her keys and all this different stuff. She's playing these odd time signatures. I didn't tell her that was hard for her to do. So some of my songs that I have on my records, she hears them all the time. She's back there in the back singing those solos, just singing them, taking them in. So she'll go back to her keyboard and she'll play this stuff. And some of this stuff is in odd time signatures. And she's figuring it out because nobody told her that she couldn't do it. Nobody put an idea in her head. This is an odd time signature. You can't do this. You're not supposed to be able to play odd time. You got to wait until you figure out 4/4. She's just figuring it out. Same thing with my son on the drums. He's figuring it out. My 5-year-old daughter on the keyboard. I bought my oldest daughter, a new keyboard, and so she got my oldest daughter's old keyboard, and so she's just been figuring stuff out, and I'm letting her figure it out. And I'm not trying to correct them and say, well, according to theory, you have to do this and do that. Now, there are times, let me digress for a second. There are times when I do kind of sneak theory in a really informal type setting. We'll be sitting at the table. I might have my guitar or something out, because I tried this before and she wasn't getting it because I was making it too formal. I was writing, we got a chalkboard at our house, and I was writing on the chalkboard, and I laid out the whole piano. And I was like, this is this, naming all the notes. And it took her forever to learn the notes because that wasn't her concern. She didn't care about that, right? And some other things that I taught her, like solfege and some other stuff, it wasn't clicking. But when I noticed, I changed my approach, and I made the setting less formal and more informal, just like we're having a conversation here. And I told her, all right, so, in music, like when we sing, na, 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 you know that, and then like she's shaking her head like, yeah, you know that. So I'm like, all right, so as far as the number system is concerned, if we sing that, how many notes did you sing? That was 8 notes, right? Well, what did you notice about the first and the last note? Oh, they're the same. They're the same. Okay, cool. Well, what's different about them? Well, one is lower and the other one is higher. Okay, all right. So what we call that in music, we call it an octave, right? So I'm asking her questions and I'm letting her come to the answer of what it actually is. And when she does that, I just give her the technical term for what it's called. And so that takes because if I say it first, I'm going to teach you about what an octave is. Now your brain is saying, I don't know what an octave is. I can't figure out that. Or if I teach you, I'm gonna teach you how to learn the number system. You automatically say, especially those of us who know a lot, we've been here for a little while, we automatically say, I don't know the number system. That's hard. Somebody tried to teach it to me before and I couldn't figure it out. But if I just start giving you certain things and lead you to what the number, like I did with my daughter. If we play a scale, because my singing probably sucks this morning, we play a scale. All right, almost everybody instantly recognizes what that is, even if you don't know it's a major scale. And I said, let's put numbers to that, all right? Right, now count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? Okay, so you recognize that sound, right? Okay, good. Even if you can't physically play it, you recognize what that should sound like. All right. All right, so do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Most people have seen The Sound of Music. Even if you haven't, you still know what those tones sound like. So we don't have to complicate this stuff. We can find a simple approach to learning our music that doesn't, well, I ain't gonna say we. That's the approach that I try to teach in my lessons, or even with my family. I'll say it that way. With my family, it's more informal. And I noticed they get it. These are kids. And it's not heavy theory, but there are some things that my daughter's now, because I open up that gate in her mind, she starts looking for certain things, and she'll go through and play out like a triad, 1, 3, 5, And I'm like, you can do that all over the keyboard. You can do it in any key. And I don't necessarily force the issue. And the more I try not to force the issue, the better she learns, the better my son learns, the better my youngest daughter learn, because we're not pushing the issue of technique. I think technique too early can stifle your growth. That's my opinion. I think technique too early can stifle your growth. Yeah, if you play all your life with super bad technique and all this kind of stuff, it can affect you physically. And I'm not dismissing all of that stuff. So for my theory heads and people who have to be right all the time, I'm not dismissing those things. I do know that good technique helps, and it helps you to improve certain things. But as far as you getting your sound out, there are things that come natural to you. And I didn't mean to get on here and rant this long, so I'm going to wrap this up. But there are some things, as far as your sound is concerned, that come natural to you. But most of us forsake that natural sound because we're trying to get to something that's complicated. And so now that creates anxiety. It creates anxiety, which now that creates not getting it done. Procrastination, so to speak. Because you have anxiety about this thing that you're trying to learn, it creates procrastination. Now you don't want to practice. And when you do practice, you don't enjoy the practice because you're only thinking about the technical aspect of it. So you don't want to spend any time practicing because all this anxiety is here. What if I do this? What if I play this wrong? This didn't sound right. This didn't sound like, if you're taking lessons with me, Jermaine played it like this and it didn't sound like Jermaine. Okay, I gave you an idea. With all of the lick videos that you guys see me posting, one of the things I'm constantly saying, this is an idea. I have people jump in the comments sometimes on some of these videos that say, well, I think this is this and this is an idea. That's all it is. You're hearing me play my idea in a context of a groove. This is my idea. Now you can take this same idea and make it yours. Slang, best example of it. I'm finna go over there. I'm from the South, so I apologize for my UK folks and the folks who are, if you don't understand what I'm saying, that's what I apologize for. But I can say a whole bunch of country stuff because I'm from Mississippi, born and raised, proud of it, right? But my family, my wife, she gets so tickled because my brother and me and my dad, we can have a conversation and she don't have a clue what we're talking about because the dialect is so strong and the slang is so strong. We finna go over yonder. Like, what? What did you just say? But it's a variation of a word or words, but we're still understanding what we're saying. Man, get out of here. Man, get out of here. I didn't say, man, get out of here. No, I want to express it this way. Man, get out of here. And so it has a different expression on it. And I think when we try to dot all our I's and cross the T's too much unnecessarily, you lose your sauce in a sense. You lose the thing that makes you authentically you. So there's nothing wrong with learning the rules, but don't make the rules more important than the communication. Don't make the rules more important than the expression, right? Last but not least, I want to say, especially if you are a gospel musician, it should be very important to you to be more effective than just good. I know this is like slightly getting off track a little bit, but it's not for me. But it should be more important to you to be more effective than good. The Bible speaks of in Samuel, I think it's let me find it so some of y'all can go and read it if you read your Bible, or if you want to go check this out and you want to go check out the Bible. All right, if 1 Samuel 16, when Saul had done all his stuff and basically he was finna be king, dethroned, you know what I'm saying? And David had been anointed as the new king. All right, so Saul had the spirit that the Lord allowed to come upon him that basically made him just crazy in the head, so to speak, for lack of better words. And he needed, and I think Samuel told him, Samuel was a prophet. He told him, look, when this thing comes on you, you're going to need a skilled musician that can play the harp really well. And when this skilled musician play, this thing will leave you alone. So it put Saul in a position where he had to summon David, because who was the skilled musician? David was. So he had to summon David to come and play for him in order to basically teach him kingly stuff, or for him to get in the environment that he needed to be in to learn how to be a king. Even though he wasn't necessarily being taught, he was in the environment where he was absorbed. So this, what I'm talking about is loaded with a lot of stuff. But David being placed in the palace just to play for Saul also put him in a position to be able to see the culture of the palace, to know how to operate in here. Because outside of being exposed to something, you have no clue what it should look like, what it should sound like. And it's going to get me to another point on down the road. But the point I'm talking about with David, David played so skillfully and so effectively that when he played, the spirit left Saul. That evil spirit that was tormenting Saul left him. Whenever David played, when David would stop playing, Saul would go crazy and start throwing stuff at him, trying to kill him. Like, man, dude, what's this dude bipolar for real? But right? So, but when he played again, the spirit would leave him. The spirit would calm down or whatever. And the spirit wouldn't torment him when David played, because he was so effective that spirit couldn't stay in there. And so if we were to do this thing in our churches and all this kind of stuff and actually try to play under the anointing of God skillfully, and let's not speed past that one. You still having your own sound and all this stuff does not excuse you from developing your skill. Skill means you've perfected, or in a sense, you've mastered that thing. Skillful. When you're skillful at it, and mastery is not necessarily, I know everything about this. No, mastery simply means when I pick up this instrument, there's not a struggle to do what it is I know I want to do or I should do on this instrument. Here's an example of mastery. You've mastered tying your shoe. You've mastered getting out of the bed in the morning. You know, you get up, either you roll out, you put one foot in front of the other, you get up, you start walking. You've mastered how to walk. You've mastered how to open and shut your eyes. You've mastered how to use your hands, right? So this is stuff that's not, something that you have to try to figure out. All right, how do I use my hands again? Right? So I know I have mastered this instrument to the point of when I sit down on it, I know what I'm doing. I don't have to try to figure out, how do I play the bass again? Right? So there's levels, I figure, of mastery in terms of, okay, this is super level mastery. Like, I'm not saying that I'm the greatest ever, none of that stuff, you know what I'm saying? But I do know I've mastered this instrument in terms of when I sit down on it, I know what I want to do and I can do it. And I'm not having to think about it. I just sit down on it and I figure it out because I've become skillful at what I do. And when I become skillful at what I do, I'm not in the middle of service or in the middle of a gig searching for something to do, instead of being present in the moment and allowing what's inside of me, my sound, to flow out of me. That's a conversation for a whole nother day. But I want you guys to think, especially you church guys or people who want to play in more religious settings. Don't be thinking so much about how quick we can play this bump or how many licks we can add into it. Try to work on being more effective. And that only comes through spending time with God. See, the other part about David, when David was tending the sheep, David would often spend time with God. And it talks about that in another passage. I'm not exactly sure what that is. But David would spend time with God while he was tending the sheep. Just playing that harp. Just him and God. Alone time. Don't forsake in your practice alone time with God. if you want to come from a spiritual perspective and if you want to be effective in the way. Now, there are two ways we can be effective. We can be effective in leading people to God, or we can be effective in leading people away from him. Because there, you can be skilled in both senses of the word, and you can be leading people astray because of how good you are. And I'm not going to get all into that. The other part I wanted to point out about Saul being invited into the palace, there's a verse in Proverbs that talks about your gift will make room before you and bring you before great men. It's like that gift and that skill that he developed brought him before a great king. And he didn't even know that he was, well, he did know at the time, but he was next in line to be king. But because he had a skill, that skill allowed him to be put in a place to be exposed to something that he needed to know. And seeing a bad king, if you're a person that has good intentions and you see somebody doing something that's bad, you automatically know what not to do. Like, okay, he's doing this and he on his way out of here. So I automatically know I don't need to do that. So exposure can help you in a lot of ways. I didn't know how to play jazz music or even how to understand jazz music until I was exposed in college to the jazz band. And now I'm starting to hear this stuff in context. I'm hearing how they, and I'm going somewhere with this. I'm hearing how they express the music, how it sounds. So as I'm hearing how they express the music, it gives me context, right? Content is all over YouTube, but context, you sometimes have to go and be in that area, like David going to the palace. You have to be in the environment to fully understand the context. So you might can sit down and learn a lot of stuff through lessons and all that. And I'm not dismissing that because that's very important. But at some point, you need to immerse yourself within context in order to fully understand how this stuff works. So some of the stuff that you're not unlocking as far as your sound is concerned is because you're not putting yourself in the right context. Well, I want to know how to be able to move around my bass and play stuff like you be playing. Well, you got to listen to some of the stuff that I listen to. It's that simple. Because the only way I know those words or that language, so to speak, is because I've placed myself in the context where I heard that stuff. And I pull from the things that I heard. I'm repeating what I hear. But if you're not hearing it, just like the biblical standpoint of it, if you're not hearing the word of God, it's going to be hard to express and send something up to him that you don't know. I know concepts of cliches that I done heard preachers and stuff say or singers say in their songs, but I don't really know what they're talking about because I haven't read it for myself and I'm not fully sure of how to express this or to connect or to play more effectively. You won't be able to do that if you don't have a personal relationship yourself. Now, the anointing of God comes without repentance. So it's possible to lead somebody somewhere that you ain't or you haven't been in terms of musically, because the sound is still the same. The anointing that's on your hands to do a certain thing is there. It's there. But you might not be affected by it. That's another conversation for a whole nother day. Anyway, I just wanted to share some of these thoughts with you guys, and I want to offer you guys the opportunity. Once again, if you want to dig more into a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, and you desire to hear yourself, your true self, how you really, really sound, I invite you to be a part of this challenge. If you don't, it's cool. Like I'm straight. Like I'm straight. The Lord has blessed me to be able to develop, to develop my own sound and to learn what that sounds like, to learn what it looks like. And through the trial and error that I went through, I know how to get to that. And I want to show a lot of other people how to get to that. I'm not forcing anybody because it's not, it's totally up to you what you want to do. But I do invite you to this challenge. Again, it's going to be a three day training that we're going to be doing. You'll learn more about it. I'll put this once more and again. I'll put this link in the. I'll put it, if you're watching this in the replay, I'll put this link in the description so you can learn more about how to be a part of that. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, and not only do you want to enjoy, but to apply it to your own self, because I'm pretty sure a lot of this stuff that I've said today, many of you guys can take this stuff and apply it right away. Right? You can take this stuff and apply it right away because it's hitting you right on your street. So anyway, let me read a few of these comments and then I'm going to jump off of here But man, I'm super grateful that you guys decided to join me today. All right, so I see a lot of people adding their opinions about sound and technique. And again, I welcome that. I asked you to put it what you thought, and that's cool. Your complete thought. Let's go back here. Man, I missed all kind of stuff. All right, I'm gonna start with Raymond because I don't know if I spoke to you. Raymond, good morning to you, sir. Ivan, good morning. Floppy, good morning. Floyd, I already said good morning to you guys. All right, so y'all was talking about that groove that I was playing that I didn't like earlier. Floyd said, man, you're super talented. You'll like it in a few moments, man. Listen, you see I stopped that thing, then you Andrew says, hey, Jermaine, what genre are you using from the Beat Buddy? That was funk. That was the funk genre that I was using earlier when I was playing that. Andrew, if you're still here. Na Tropy, if I'm saying that correctly, definitely sound. He says sound over technique. Let's see here. If you are musical, then even something easy can sound fantastic. I see what you're saying. Then even something, if you're musical with what you play, then even something super simple, you know how to make it sound great, extraordinary. I got you. Both technique is a part of your sound. You said both. I'm sorry. Your technique is a part of your sound. I got you. Yeah, I agree. I agree because good point, Steven. Because even with a bad technique, you still have some form of technique. So I definitely agree with that. Technique is technique, whether it's good or bad. Now you can work to improve to bring all that home. What I said earlier, you can work to improve as you go your technique. I'm still working to improve certain things about my technique. So yeah, I do agree. Both your technique is a part of your sound. I do agree. If you have a great technique, but your musicality, you said it right. If you have a great technique, but your musicality is low, then what you play can sound like crap. All right, I see what you're saying. Yeah, if you don't know how to be musical with good technique, listen, I ain't even got time to get into that. You can have really awesome technique, and you're playing all the right stuff, but you're not musical. Don't nobody want to hear it, right? Right? It's like, yeah, you're doing all the right stuff. You're holding your bass correctly. And I'm saying correctly. I'm not saying this is the correct way, but your arm is straightened and you're doing all the things, You're not lifting your fingers too far off the fret, and you're using the right, all this stuff, but you're not playing any music, though. I'd rather hear a little baby or a little kid that knows how to get on there and play a groove than care how well your technique is. So, I can get on soapbox on that one. The Black Chad, good morning to you. His churches have produced a lot of instrumentalists. I agree. Churches have produced a lot of instrumentalists. And I ain't going to say nothing else concerning that because I could get on the soapbox. Andre, good morning to you. Mike, good morning, man. Bless you. Akanji, I hope I said that right. Good morning to you. Junior, Robert Brownlee, man, my cousin. Good morning to you, sir. Juan Hayes, good morning. Azibi Gray, Azibi, hopefully, hey, I'm trying. Good morning. Edlin, thank you. I am struggling in a lot of ways you spoke on. Wow. I'm glad that I was able to help in some way. Any tips for mastering finger style? I got a gnat, fruit fly, something flying around my studio is annoying me right now. Any tips for mastering fingerstyle? Yeah. Hopefully I covered it in all of this stuff that I've been saying today. Like really, like working on that. I don't know if there is a simple answer other than practice on it, really work on it. Yeah, because that I think that's dealing more with the technique aspect of it, and to really give you a suitable answer, I don't know if I have time to really get into that, but I would say to keep working and copy and paste. You don't have to. I'll say this: you don't have to reinvent the wheel in terms of finger style. Listen to people who play finger style and try to repeat what they do. I think a lot of musicians look over simplicity of ear training. You look over the simplicity of ear training. And most cats look over the simplicity of what they know, trying to get to something new, thinking it's some magic pill that's going to solve all your problems. And actually, it's, really honing in on what you know. Because when you hone in on that, everything else kind of blossoms around that. When you hone in on what you know. I heard this joke, and I hope I tell it right. But there was this young guy who came to town. It was basically this old guy who was known in this particular town as like a wooded area, just back in the day. People still chopping down trees, probably during Abraham Lincoln's time. People still chopping down trees, you know what I'm saying? So this guy was known in the city to be like one of the baddest cats with an axe in his hand, for years. He had this title that, nobody could touch him in terms of chopping a tree down for years. I mean, he mastered, talking about mastery, he mastered the skill of being able to chop a tree down. All right, so this young gun comes up, pretty swole dude, right? And he's like, he comes to the city, and he hears about this guy, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna take my man on. I think I can beat him, cause he's building a name for himself. Where he's at, he's like that dude in his city. Like, he done built a good name for himself. He's been at it for a little while. He got some strength, some muscle behind it. And he's like, all right, we're gonna have a competition, and the old man took him on. He's like, all right, what we gonna do? We're gonna go down through here, and basically, at the end of the day, whoever cuts the most trees, that's who wins the competition. So they kick it off. And my man, swole dude, young cat with the muscles and everything, he got his axe. He going at it. I mean, he knocking tree after tree down. He is going at it, working hard too. Bam, 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 bam. And every time he looks over at my man, he's over there sitting down. He's like, wait a minute, why is this dude sitting down? And you see him with his axe in his lap, sharpening his axe. Some of y'all may have heard this before. And my man, he keeps working on them trees. Bam, 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 knocking all them trees down. So, all right, they get to the end of the competition, and they go to count up all the trees, and they go young cat first. He already know he won, because he's like, I seen that dude, man. I seen him sitting down. Ain't no way he was keeping up with me. He would have done good to have one tree knocked down. And so they count the trees up, and they look at the pile of trees that the young man had, and it was a nice little pile of trees. And then they go over to the older guy. My man got almost like a forest sitting up over there, and the young cat is scratching his head like, how in the world did you beat me? Like, what? Like, dude, I saw you sitting down. He's like, yeah. Every time you saw me sitting down, I was sharpening my axe. So while you doing all of this, I was having to do less swings. So I was knocking more trees down because I spent more time sharpening my skills, sharpening my tools. I spent more time doing that. So some of the stuff that you're trying to accomplish, if you would spend more time working on your craft, sharpening your axe, so to speak, you would get to the answer that you're looking for a lot faster. And that's the thing that I was telling some of you guys earlier about being able to somewhat master your skill faster. It's not that it's not that you don't have the right stuff, but you might be focusing on too much of the wrong stuff, right? So anyway, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on that. Music for Jesus. Good morning to you. They will learn and grow in their own style. Okay. Oh yeah, you talking about the kids? It took me a minute to figure that out. Talking perfect pitch. What's your advice on ear training? Listen and repeat. It don't get no more simpler than that. And listen to everything. Whatever you hear, try to repeat it. Wow, good advice on the me knowing will. Me knowing will be in the way of the learning. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. It took me a second to get it. When I talked about some people, we know too much, and that's why we can't learn. Going back to the earlier thing, we know too much. Like the dude knew that he could beat the old cat because he knew how strong he was. He knew how much time he put working out. So he spent more time on building his body than he did learning how to sharpen his axe. I completely agree with, this is Music for Jesus. I completely agree with you. I just completed a 2-year music degree and didn't come from a formalized music background, and theory filled in several gaps for me, but slowed my progress. Hey, you got somebody that just went to school. Listen, people, listen. I'm not saying theory is wrong or irrelevant, but I struggled with music theory. Music theory, when I was taking it, for me, being from a self-taught format, music theory, trying to figure out and understand it, I was so busy trying to learn the rules and pass the grade that I didn't learn how to apply it to music. Now, this is not blanket for everybody. Some people might just get it quickly, but be careful. Now, I'm not saying music theory is bad, but don't allow theory to rob you of your ability to communicate and express. That's all I'm saying. Mike Randolph, good morning to you. Willis, good morning to you. Let's see here. Marcus says, I pulled out of church, and you're right. It's about the relationship. Yeah, it's about relationship all day long. On a daily basis, who do you listen to? Who do you mean, Marcus? Like, musically, I need more. If you're still here, I need more specifics to answer that question. Got to go back to catch this from the beginning. Absolutely. Stedman, good morning to you. Canny, good morning. Mr. Al West, good morning to you, sir. T says, what happened to your Warwick bass you used to use back then? I got rid of my Warwick when I got my Warrior, my first Warrior, that Isabella you see right there. Get my finger to do it. There we go. That Isabella, I got rid of my Warrior when I bought that. Yep. So we retired her, and I got the Isabella. So that's where she's at. Stedman says, I think sound versus skill is a bit different. I hear you. I'm not necessarily sure what you mean specifically, but I hear what you're saying. And again, everybody, you welcome to your own opinion. It's like my disclaimer that I gave at the beginning was, again, like, this is all my opinion based on what has worked for me. Al West, what's your method for improving sight reading? Any particular program or books you find helpful? When I was sight reading in college, it was just sight singing, getting as much music in front of you as you can. That's not a strong suit of mine. I do read, but that is not a strong suit of mine. So I might not be the best expert in that area to help you with that. One of the things I have done in my own practice time, and the reason I think I probably suck at it, my ear was always stronger than my sight reading. So I would memorize the music a lot faster than I could read it. So that would always get in the way of me. But one of the ways I was, and I'll be honest with you, one of the ways I was working around that was I pull up stuff like tracks and stuff on YouTube that are, they have the sheet music that's there, and I'll play through the track and just make myself do it a lot. So I had got to the point where I got pretty fluent with it, and then it fell off again because I don't ever use that skill. So yeah, it's something. I would say, Hal Leonard, any of the Hal Leonard stuff, if you're just starting, any of the Hal Leonard stuff getting started will probably help you. But making yourself do it, repetition. And my only reason why I'm not good at it because I don't do it, just being completely honest. Repetition in that area will make you better at it, and doing it over and over again. Good morning, Mama. Good morning to you. Stedman says, facts, big bro. Facts, big bro. I have always learned church music from ear. Yes, I would like to improve sight reading. Okay, several people talking about sight reading musically. Got you. Stedman says bass catalog is beautiful. Okay. Oh, you talking about the basses behind. Thank you, sir. Good morning. Thanks for the motivation. Absolutely. Glad that I'm able to give you guys something. Kevin says, good morning, good information. Glad that you guys are enjoying this, or you have enjoyed this. I have extended my time, and I have exceeded my time that I extended. So I'm going to jump off of here, but I hope you guys found something really, really helpful from this. And if you're interested, once again, for jumping more into this particular conversation as it pertains to sound, I invite you to become part of this challenge. We're going to be talking. We're going to be having some good insight going forth about this particular area. If it interests you, I invite you to become a part of this. If not, I'll see you somewhere else on something else. So anyway, guys, If you're not already subscribed to this channel, be sure and hit that subscribe button, turn on my bell notification so you know, like, stuff like this when I go live. You can come on here and talk to me. We can have some good dialogue and hopefully give you some nuggets that help move you forward in what it is you're trying to do, right? So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. I gotta go. I got stuff to do, and I know y'all do too. So enjoy it, you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Much love to you. Peace.